Beyond the blackened teeth of Mordor's mountains lies a silence that Tolkien never fully broke. A silence of endless plains, forgotten deserts, and kingdoms that never saw the light of Gondor's white tree. To the free peoples of the West, these lands were but a blank space on the map, a distant horizon of rumor and fear. But to Sauron, the East was no blank. It was his throne room of shadows, his hidden empire, a realm where entire nations bent the knee and whispered his name as a god. Welcome back. Today we step into that silence, beyond Mordor, into the East, into the vast dominion Sauron commanded, and the terrible truth of just how far his shadow stretched. When we turn to Tolkien's maps, we find something curious. To the west, every hill, river, and forest is charted with precision. We know the Shire, the roads of Rohan, the towers of Gondor, but to the east, there is only emptiness. The parchment fades into whiteness, as though even the cartographers of Middle-earth dared not look too far. And yet, we know the world does not end at Mordor's mountains. Beyond them lay Rhûn, a vast inland sea ringed with kingdoms and tribes whose names the West scarcely remembered. Further still stretched deserts without end, dark forests untouched by Númenórean sails, and civilizations so ancient they may have rivaled Gondor itself. To the free peoples, these distant lands were a direction of dread, a horizon whispered of but never seen. But to Sauron, the East was no mystery. It was the perfect refuge, and the soil from which he would grow his secret empire. After the fall of Morgoth, Sauron fled. Broken, shamed, stripped of his master's glory, he hid from the eyes of the Valar. And where did he go? Into the East. There, in the silence of uncharted kingdoms, he found peoples untouched by the wisdom of the elves or the pride of Númenor. Men who had never heard the music of the Ainur, but who hungered for power, for order, for meaning. To them, Sauron was no exile. He was a god. With promises of strength and whispers of forbidden knowledge, he raised up kings who would kneel before him. He forged entire nations in his image, binding them to his will with lies and fear. And when he finally returned to the West in the Second Age, it was not alone. Behind him stood the countless tribes and armies of the East, his first true empire, born out of exile and shadow. Tolkien gave us only fragments of their names: the Wainriders, who thundered into battle upon their chariots; the Balkoth, who nearly destroyed Gondor before the birth of Rohan; the Variags of Khand, cruel and merciless. But these were only the ones the West saw. Beyond Mordor, there were others: hidden tribes, forgotten dynasties, kings who ruled beneath Sauron's black hand. In the Silmarillion, it is whispered that Sauron ruled many mighty peoples of the East and South. Entire nations vanished into his service, their histories erased, their identities consumed by his dominion. To us they are nameless, to him they were legions. To the west, Sauron was the Dark Lord, the nameless enemy, a figure whispered of in fear. But in the east, he was something far more unsettling. He was worshipped, not merely obeyed, but adored as a divine figure. To those far from Gondor's reach, Sauron was a bringer of gifts, a lord of order in a chaotic world. Temples may have risen in his name, their black stone halls echoing with chants to the eye. Priests could have offered sacrifices in his honor, believing their devotion would secure them power, protection, or eternal dominion at his side. In the Two Towers, Frodo and Sam glimpse Easterling soldiers, tall, grim men, their faces hidden, marching with a discipline and purpose unlike orcs. These were not mercenaries. They were believers. They did not serve Sauron out of terror alone, but with a zeal born of faith. And that is perhaps the most haunting truth of the East. Entire cultures may have lived and died under his worship, raising their children not in defiance of the Dark Lord, but in reverence of him. To them, Sauron was not the shadow, he was the light. When the War of the Ring came, Sauron unleashed his hosts. At Minas Tirith, Gondor faced not only orcs and trolls, but countless men of the East, Southrons with their war elephants, Easterlings in crimson and gold, Variags from Khand. And yet, Tolkien tells us these were only a fraction. Many armies of the East never marched. They remained in their homelands, untouched by the Ring's final war. Consider that for a moment. Gondor fought desperately for survival against only a sliver of Sauron's true might. If the full strength of the East had moved westward, if every nation had marched, no wall would have held, no alliance stood. The White City would have burned in days. The East was not a reserve. It was the true foundation of Sauron's power. Mordor was only his fortress. The East was his empire. But perhaps the most haunting secret of the East lies not with Sauron himself, but with two figures long forgotten by the West, the Blue Wizards, Alatar and Pallando. When the Astari were sent by the Valar to aid Middle-earth, 5 came across the sea. Gandalf, Saruman, and Radagast we know well, but Alatar and Pallando journeyed far into the East and vanished from all recorded history. For centuries, even Tolkien believed they had failed, ensnared by Sauron's deceit, or lost to the corruption of the cults that worshipped him. But in Tolkien's later writings, that story changed. He hinted that the Blue Wizards may have succeeded where others could not, that they wandered deep into Sauron's dominion, quietly sowing rebellion, weakening his power from within. Perhaps they raised secret orders of resistance, hidden faiths that defied the eye, or inspired small uprisings lost to time. If so, then much of the West's survival may rest upon their unseen victories. While Sauron built his empire in the East, the Blue Wizards may have been the lone light in that endless darkness, waging a war no one in the West would ever know. When the Ring was destroyed, when Barad-dûr fell and the West rejoiced, what of the East? The Easterlings did not vanish. Their nations did not crumble. They fled, yes, back to the safety of their distant homelands. But Gondor was too weak, too scarred by centuries of war to pursue them. The East remained beyond reach, its kingdoms intact. This leaves us with a chilling thought. While the West rebuilt, in the East there may still have been temples where Sauron's name was whispered, kings who still called themselves his servants, armies who mourned his fall, not celebrated it. The East beyond Mordor is one of Tolkien's greatest mysteries. He showed us glimpses, armies at the Black Gate, strangers in strange armor, whispers of forgotten wars. But he never pulled back the curtain, and perhaps that is the point. For the true terror of the East lies not in what we know, but in what we cannot know. Vast lands, countless peoples, all beneath the sway of a dark lord who was more than a tyrant. To them, he was a god. If you hunger for more Tolkien lore, like and subscribe for more untold tales of Middle-earth. Our next journey may take us somewhere even darker. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you on the next one.